Imagine being stuck on a small boat in the world's largest, most unforgiving ocean, where every moment could be your last. You're alone, lost in the Pacific Ocean with nothing but the raw elements against you. But against all odds, you survive for over 14 months. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Well, this is the real-life story of Josh Salvador Alvarenga, who fought for his life against impossible odds, and the twist that no one saw coming.
Back in 2012, Josh was a 36-year-old fisherman living in the coastal village of Costa Azul, Mexico. A seasoned fisherman with years of experience, he thought he knew the ocean and its dangers like the back of his hand. But that day, November 17, 2012, was different. It was supposed to be just another day of fishing, something Josh had done thousands of times before. But little did he know, this day would mark the beginning of a fight for survival that would change his life forever. Josh and his friends set out from the shore in a tiny, 7-foot boat. It wasn't much, a small fishing boat, just big enough to carry 2 men and some basic equipment. They had a small engine and a refrigerator for storing fish. Nothing too fancy. Their plan was simple: catch fish and return to shore within 30 hours. But as fate would have it, they would never make it back on schedule. As they sailed deeper into the Pacific, a dangerous storm suddenly hit. The weather turned violently, and Josh and his friend quickly realized they were in trouble. The storm was so fierce that it threatened to capsize their boat. With the engine running full speed, they tried to return to shore, but the storm was relentless. Just 20 kilometers from the coast, their boat's engine failed. They were stranded, caught between the violent waves and the shore they could barely see. At first, they tried to stay calm. They used their radio to send out a distress signal, but their luck was running out. The storm was overwhelming, and to make matters worse, the battery of their radio died. With no way to communicate and only a tiny boat to keep them afloat, Josh and his friend were at the mercy of the ocean. With each passing hour, they were pushed further out to sea. The storm faded, but the damage was done. They had drifted hundreds of kilometers away from the coast. The boat was small, and their supplies were limited. Days turned into weeks, and they ran out of food. The little water they had quickly became undrinkable, and the pair started to feel the crushing weight of isolation. At one point, Josh and his friend spotted a bird in the distance. Hungry and desperate, they tried to catch it, but it was too fast. The bird flew away before they could even get close. Eventually, though, another bird appeared, and this time, Josh and his friend managed to catch it. It wasn't much, but it was food, something to keep them going. As the days passed, Josh and his friend became more resourceful. They learned to catch fish with their bare hands, using whatever they could find to make traps. When it rained, they collected water in a plastic bottle. Drinking salty seawater could be deadly, so they knew to avoid it at all costs. For a while, it seemed like the worst was over. They had food, they had water, and they had each other. But as the weeks stretched on, the reality set in. They weren't going to make it home anytime soon. Josh realized that survival wasn't just about finding food or staying hydrated. It was about mental strength. As weeks turned into months, the isolation began to take its toll. Josh's friend, exhausted and broken by the conditions, started to lose hope. He couldn't bear it any longer and decided to end his life. Josh was now alone in the vast expanse of the Pacific, with nothing but his own willpower to keep him alive. Being alone in such an unforgiving environment was the hardest part. Josh had nothing to hold on to. No friends, no family, no contact with the outside world. He was trapped on a boat in the middle of nowhere, with no hope of rescue. The days blurred into one another. He talked to himself, to the ocean, just to stay sane. In his mind, he was living in a constant battle for survival. There were moments when he didn't want to go on, when everything seemed hopeless. But he never gave up. Josh realized that survival was more about mental strength than anything else. The ocean was brutal, but it was also predictable in its own way. When the weather was calm, Josh would rest. When the storms came, he would brace himself and fight back. He kept going, one day at a time, hoping that somewhere, someone would find him. After 6 months, something happened that reignited Josh's hope. he saw a cargo ship in the distance. It was the first sign of human life in over 180 days. Josh did everything he could to signal the ship, using a mirror, waving his arms, and shouting, but the ship didn't see him. He tried again and again, but nothing worked. The ship sailed on, leaving Josh with nothing but the realization that he was still alone. But that moment, that sighting, gave Josh a new sense of purpose. He realized that as long as he was alive, there was always a chance. And if he could survive this long, maybe, just maybe, he could make it home. Josh's survival story wasn't just about finding food or shelter. It was about enduring, day after day, in a place where most people would have given up. He lost track of time. There was no sense of morning or night. His world had become a small, floating island in the middle of an ocean that seemed to stretch on forever. He had no way of knowing if he would ever see land again. As the months turned into a year, Josh's will to survive only grew stronger. He had to stay focused, keep moving, and never lose hope. Even when things seemed impossible, he kept his mind on one thing: survival. Finally, after 14 months at sea, Josh was rescued by a fisherman from the Marshall Islands. He was weak, malnourished, and covered in sores, but he was alive. The story of his survival spread quickly, and people were amazed that he had managed to survive for so long in such harsh conditions. Josh's story is a testament to the power of the human spirit. It's a story of resilience, of mental and physical endurance, and of never giving up, even when the odds are stacked against you. Now, here's the shocking twist. When Josh returned home, he was not celebrated as a hero. Instead, he faced questions from the authorities. Why had he been out there for so long? Was there more to his story than he was letting on? Did he have something to do with the death of his friend? Josh was forced to explain himself, and for a while, the world didn't know if his incredible tale of survival was the truth or a fabrication. So, what's the takeaway from Josh's story? It's simple. Life will throw unimaginable challenges at you, and sometimes the best way to survive is to keep going. No matter how hard things get, as long as you're breathing, there's always hope. If you find yourself in a tough spot, remember Josh's story. In your darkest moments, you have the strength to push through. The lesson is clear. Never give up, no matter how impossible the situation might seem. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to hear more unbelievable survival stories and lessons that could change your life.